Hey, good morning, my friends. You know, uh, wanted to talk to you a little bit about road trips, Route 66, a few things like that. Give you a couple updates about a recent adventure on Route 66. Uh, think of it as I flashed back to living on Tulsa time. It's a line from a song by Don Williams, which seemed rather appropriate. After all, my dearest friend and I were big fans of his music, and many of his tunes were the theme song for our courting years. And for a few days recently during the AAA Route 66 Road Fest at the end of June, well, we were living on Tulsa time. The trip to Tulsa and home again was not a good example of how best to get the most from a Route 66 adventure. It was kind of a throwback to the family trips I remember from the 1960s that my dad would call vacations. My mother would refer to them more as trips to purgatory. Well, we packed a lot into our adventure to Tulsa. That's kind of a throwback to my childhood as well. The adventure was a true whirlwind. 2.5 day drive to Tulsa, 2 days at Roadfest, and 2 days for the drive home. And, that's one reason it's not an example of how to get the best out of a Route 66 adventure. Anyway, that many hours on the road allows time for reflection. And thoughts on this trip were dominated by remembering more than 60 years of drives through these little towns and a growing movement that seems to be sweeping the country to cleanse history, which just bothers me to no end. If a moment in history is uncomfortable, we need the courage to engage with it if we are to learn from it and discover truth. For long trips, I go with a rental car instead of taking the trusty old Jeep. The Jeep isn't exactly a search and rescue vehicle. In other words, if I leave town, there's the thought that someone will have to come rescue me. But it is nearly 30 years old, and then there's the issue of gas mileage. The manager at Enterprise Rent-A-Car in Kingman had set me up with a 2026 Nissan, just over 14,000 miles. Thank you, Nicholas Cole. I sure like these new cars. Comfortable, good gas mileage. It was wonderful. 35 to 40 miles to a gallon. But God bless, the technology in those things, I can envision those cars 5, 10 years from now. And it kind of worries me. I digress. The drive began on Wednesday morning. It's been ingrained in me since childhood, and so it's become a tradition of taking to the road at first light. This trip, however, began a bit later as I had business to attend to before leaving town. Well, we got on the road and we decided to treat ourselves with a lunch break at the Turquoise Room at the historic La Posada in Winslow. I got to tell you, the Cobb salad, excellent, superb. But I also have to recommend ask for a split plate. That salad was massive. And I sure hate wasting food, but it was like the 72-ounce steak challenge from the Big Texan Steakhouse in Amarillo. I don't know how anybody could eat that entire salad. Well, anyway, at the end of day one, we rolled into New Mexico. As I started getting into New Mexico, the schedule was derailed by lots of heavy truck traffic and miles of road construction. So that put me in Albuquerque just in time for the afternoon rush hour. And that totally finished off any plans I had of making it to Santa Rosa by 5 o'clock or so, as I had planned. That was the bad news. The good news, after being closed and traffic being rerouted on a detour through Santa Fe because of a brush fire at Klein's Corner the day before, I-40 was now open. Anyway, we wrapped up that day at the Time Capsule La Mesa Motel in Santa Rosa, New Mexico. I can recommend this one. If you're a traveler that wants the generic comforts of the Holiday Inn Express or the Marriott, this motel won't work. You won't be happy. But if you can be comfortable at a place with bare bones amenities that's clean, budget friendly, and is a tangible link to Route 66 history, you'll like the La Mesa. And You like their beautiful neon sign. I have one more recommendation for you in Santa Rosa. The Silver Moon Cafe that opened in 1959. They provide some pretty decent Mexican food. And the atmosphere kind of reminds me a lot of Route 66 trips taken in the 60s and 70s. Kind of blurred the line between past and present. The second day was another throwback to my childhood and the first trips of our marriage. See, most of my life, and we continue to do this, we travel with an oversized picnic basket and a food box. We carry things like instant oatmeal, peanut butter crackers, applesauce, nuts, dried fruit, fruit cocktail, soup, stew, tea, honey, basic staples. So as I really wanted to get on the road early after supper at the Silver Moon, we picked up some milk and yogurt and put them in the refrigerator in the motel room. And the next morning, we had a great hearty breakfast of oatmeal, applesauce, and, well, yogurt. And that allowed us to be back on the road the next morning just before the sun cleared the horizon. We had a few photo stops along the way, and then we made our traditional pit stop to borrow the bathrooms at the convention center in Tucumcari. And I walked into a most exciting surprise. It happens a lot on road trips, especially road trips that include Route 66. The National Kaiser Fraser Owners Club, excuse me, was holding a meet in Tucumcari. A bone stock Henry J has been a rarity for at least 50 years. So to see several in one piece, that was a real treat. Likewise with the Kaiser Darren. It's a sports car that came out just before the Corvette. Had a really unique pocket door and a grill, a front end that kind of looks like a Buick sucking a lemon. Only about 435 of these rare cars were produced. Can't imagine how many are left. Well, that stop turned into a delightful derailment of the entire schedule for the day. We talked with folks who had driven their cars from Washington, Colorado, and even Michigan. And we had the opportunity to talk with a 12-year-old girl that was enjoying her first Route 66 trip, but she was doing it in a Kaiser. So I had to provide her with a few souvenirs. A Route 66 Centennial passport from Touch Media, the folks who have created the Route 66 navigation app, and some items from Kingman, as well as a copy of the newest Route 66 Sentinel magazine. Well, back on the road was more like old times. I had to make up for lost time, so I had a bit as I had a bit of business in Vega, Texas, our next stop, and that led to another discovery that I can recommend for the Route 66 traveler: the Hickory Inn Cafe in Vega. Well, of course, that meant a missed stop with Brenda at the Midpoint Cafe. My plan was to make that a stop on the return leg of the trip. Amarillo was another pit stop, Buc-ee's, for gas and jerky. God, what a wild place, Buc-ee's. That's another experience in itself. And then it was back on the road. As I didn't need to be in Tulsa until late Friday afternoon, our destination for Thursday night was Stroud, Oklahoma. I wanted to check out the recently renovated Skyliner Motel. We also had plans for breakfast at the iconic Rock Cafe the following morning, and I wanted some photos pertaining to the Henry Starr bank robbery displays for a project I'm working on. Folks often complain about the traffic in Los Angeles, and more than a few Route 66 travelers use that as an excuse to avoid exploring the earliest alignment and much of the urban area. First, Route 66 travelers have been complaining about the traffic in LA since at least the 1950s. Second, I can't say that the traffic in LA is any worse than Oklahoma City at rush hour. What a maddening and frustrating mess. But once we got out of Oklahoma City, got back on a little 2-lane, headed for Stroud, saw some buffalo along the road, didn't get a picture, no place to pull over, but that was kind of a treat. I had heard some interesting things about the Skyliner Motel, and some purists have been complaining a bit. Look, the restored neon sign is a treasure. Other than that, Yes, there isn't a lot of vintage decor with a Skyliner motel, but it gets my highest recommendation. Basic, sparkling clean. A few modern bathroom fixtures and the television. Aside from that, this was what a motel room was like for travelers in the 60s or early 70s. And I'm confident the new generation of Route 66 travelers will be talking fondly of this place in the years to come. For us old timers, there was also an opportunity to experience something new. I know this for a lot of travelers that you've experienced this, but this was different for us. At the Skyliner, you make reservations online, and the day before arrival, you'll receive an email with your assigned room number and the door code. Quite interesting. As a bonus, Uncle Pepe's restaurant is just around the corner. You can see the sign behind the motel. Hands down, some of the best Mexican food we have had in years. And as with most any road trip, the Skyliner and Uncle Pepe's, that's an opportunity to experience the real America. The motel had been refurbished by a couple not yet 30 years of age, and the restaurant was established, managed, and worked by first-generation immigrants that arrived in Stroud via Tulsa. Judging by the full house, that restaurant is a welcome addition to the community. Friday kicked off with a bit of sunrise photography. Stroud impressed me as there was a strong sense of community made manifest at every turn. Renovated facades of historic buildings, new neon signs, historic markers, well-maintained properties. You could just see the pride and community reflected. Breakfast at the Rock Cafe was kind of bittersweet. Maybe I'm being picky. Well, as always, the food was good. Some of the changes made since our last visit just didn't feel right. It seemed like some of the old authenticity was missing. But it was a perfect setting for a special breakfast that included lively conversation with our old friend Jerry McClanahan, the acclaimed artist and creator of the Easy 66 Guide for Travelers. The last time we ate at the Rock Cafe several years ago was lunch with Jerry McClanahan. After breakfast, as we had plenty of time, and it's only about a 50, 60-mile drive, we took a slow cruise along Route 66 to Tulsa. Made a few stops along the way. A Route 66 trip through Tulsa cannot be considered complete without a stop at the Mother Road Market. The business model for this place, you should look that up. It's really impressive. This is a food court in a repurposed historic building that again reflects the diverse nature of American culture. Food selections range from traditional burgers and onion rings to authentic Korean kimchi, Mexican and Japanese food, and African delights that offers, quote, passionate fusion of authentic African flavors and modern creativity to immerse her taste buds in blending tradition with contemporary flavors. That was a direct quote. With a parking lot, as often is the problem at Mother Road Market, it was packed. So we went with plan B. We hit up Sweetie Pies for lunch. That included a fried pie for dessert. Now, this place is located in a strip mall along Route 66 across from the Campbell Hotel. And this is one of those places that will enhance a memory-making journey along this storied highway. I can't recommend Sweetie Pies enough. You know, I have a soft spot for the AAA Route 66 Road Fest, and I do hope that Wade Bray, Ken Busby, and the rest of the team will be able to keep this annual event going. Family fun, budget-friendly, educational, road trip inspiring exhibits all in one massive air-conditioned space. What more can you ask for in an event? For us, the bonus was an opportunity to visit with some old friends and associates from all along the Route 66 corridor and to get insight about the state of the Route 66 community. Some of the state Route 66 associations went above and beyond. Texas booth was an example. Their towering display included a rotating Route 66 birthday cake complete with candles. I always enjoy an opportunity to share America's story and to tell people where to go. And at Roadfest, I had that opportunity several times. And I got to talk with a lot of folks during a Magic City book signing. But a highlight for me personally was a program where I shared the stage with authors Joe Sonderman and Michael Wallace. Wallace is also the voice of the sheriff in the animated film Cars. The visit to Tulsa did include a dinner at Mother Road Market, of quick visits with friends, and a breakfast at Sweetie Pie's. And there were 2 nights at the historic Campbell Hotel. This is a great place with a sense of timelessness. And it has a story of historic preservation that's well worth studying. But it's obvious that a little bit of touch-up is really sorely needed. A little paint here and there, a few things like that. But don't let that deter you. This is centrally located in the Route 66 corridor, and it's a unique experience. Hoping to reduce the stress a bit, I'd made the decision to leave Tulsa late on Sunday night after my last presentation, try to avoid some of the Monday morning traffic. And that decision provided another opportunity to experience the Skyliner Motel and a delicious dinner of pollo con pineapple with queso at Uncle Pepe's in Stroud. I was not disappointed. We were on the road again at first light, grabbed a few more photos, drove to Chandler, took a few photos of the new McClanahan Park, and then it was time for breakfast and at the Boomerang Diner. That's another blending of the past, present, and future. The diner is a nostalgia-focused chain, and they served up hearty, classic American staples. And it was great to just sit and be a fly on the wall, listen to the regulars, the farmers, the well drillers, the truck drivers, the mechanics. And their talk made me smile. It was like old times. Well, as it was Monday, lots of places were closed. That included the Midpoint Cafe. So we didn't get a visit, but I did stop long enough to drop Brenda a note. The travel pace and the road closures and the construction and things being closed being Monday meant that we missed an opportunity to visit with quite a few of our old friends and associates. But with just one exception, pretty much everyone understood and they reached out with a text or a phone call, so I've been able to catch up with them since we got home. I wanted to avoid the traffic in Oklahoma City, and having just read a biography about Quanah Parker, decided to swing through Guthrie and then drop down to El Reno. There were a couple of sites that I was interested in, and this drive only added a few miles. I thought that the time would balance out as we wouldn't be dealing with the OKC traffic. Our destination for the evening was Tucumcari, and along the way we made a couple quick stops, one being lunch at Lucille's in Weatherford, another favorite of ours, and another pit stop at Buc-ee's in Amarillo. Folks like or hate Tucumcari. I'm in the former camp, as there is something special about this place. There are some folks here that will sweep you up in the infectious enthusiasm for projects, for the community, and for the future, and they are doing things, big things. That transforms the signs of hard times in the form of closed motels and restaurants into displays of untapped opportunity, and their enthusiasm stands in stark contrast to the whining of naysayers and the complaints of folks that just simply never learned to play well with others. We checked into the Roadrunner Lodge Motel, another highly recommended stop for the Route 66 traveler. It just happens to be a sponsor of Jim Hinckley's America. And then David Brenner, the owner, provided an opportunity for some fun urban exploration, and he shared a sneak peek at some exciting new projects. And that was followed with a rather chaotic dinner at Dell's. Not worth going much into, but it was wild. Anyway, we had lively conversation, and it stirred the excitement about the future in Tucumcari. David Brenner is always a source of inspiration, as is Joanne Thompson of the Apache Motel. And Connie Loveland, the Tucumcari Main Street director, she has an unshakable enthusiasm that is infectious. I can't say enough about her dedication to community, her passion, and her vision. Just great people. Holly Blunk and Scott Dorsey of the Route 66 Flight School out of Oklahoma happened to be in town on their way home after a Route 66 Odyssey, and they joined us as well. Well, facing a long drive home, about 650 miles for the next day, I was back on the road before sunrise and made a couple quick pit stops and then made it to Gallup. And, well, that provided an excuse for lunch at Angela Chavez's Angela's Cafe in the Cultural Center. This is the old Harvey House and Depot there along Route 66. This is one of our favorite Route 66 lunch stops. We hadn't been there in a couple of years because it's hard to catch them. They close around 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Tremendous food, great people, wonderful atmosphere. A good road trip is always peppered with surprises. And at the Cultural Center, we met Brian Antonia, a very talented artist from Laguna Pueblo. That was a most enjoyable conversation. It's the first of many I will have with him, at least I hope. Well, the sun was sinking below the ridge line of the Surbat Mountains when we rolled into the driveway, and just like that, another road trip adventure came to an end. Long ago, I lost count of how many times I've traveled all or part of Route 66 since that first family adventure from Virginia in 1959. A Route 66 road trip is best when it is savored slowly. That allows for time to meet the folks, and they are what infuse the Route 66 community with a bit of magic. But any road trip is better than the best day at an office. And the best road trip, be it 2 days or 2 weeks, is Route 66. Sharing America's story, telling people where to go, well, it's what we do here at Jim Hinckley's America. This trip, even though it was rushed, provided lots of material for future stories. Stay tuned. Before I bid you adios, I want to encourage you to become a subscriber and a follower. We will do our best to have a program here on Podbean every Friday morning, Friday for you. And we will do our live stream episode of Coffee with Jim on the Jim Hinckley's America YouTube channel. One more, Jim Hinckley's America and these programs are sponsored by listeners through Patreon. And they're also sponsored by some great folks who share our passion for road trips, for encouraging people to take road trips and discover America. Folks like Sam Murray, Gilligan's Route 66 Tours, Stephen and Chantel with Route Trip USA, Austin Coop with the amazing Two-Lane America, David Brenner at the Roadrunner Lodge Motel, Vicky Ashcraft, what an amazing person, at the Enchanted Trails Trading Post and RV Park near Albuquerque. She's also was a founding member of the Route 66 Association of New Mexico and a founding member of the New Mexico Route 66 Alliance. Great source for information. And Dina Nelson, State Farm Insurance, definitely a hometown hero. My friends, thank you for joining me with this rushed, quick, virtual trip along Route 66. Like I said, please become a subscriber, a follower. We always enjoy hearing from you. And, well, share your travel tips. This is Jim Hinckley's America is a shared adventure. And with that said, we'll bid you adios with a little bit of music from our good friends Joe and Woody and the boys of the Road Crew. Roadcrew66.com if you need some road trip inspiring music or a theme song for your grand adventure. Until we meet again, my friends, I will bid you adios.
Say hello to a new friend on an old road. Take a two-lane trip of memories into mysteries unknown. Come along for the ride. Jim Hinckley's America. Jim Hinckley's America.